And it's kind of a funny quote that he gave was about how he compared Yamamoto to kind of like the dominant monkey, like in a particular environment.
Yeah, I was not familiar with the zoology of.
Well, Japan has a lot of
monkeys,
monkeys,
yes.
right? There are a lot of, so.
Hello and welcome back to the Dodgers Post. I'm Jack Harris, California's Post Dodger beat writer, along with Dylan Hernandez, our baseball columnist. And Dylan, baseball's being played again. Right behind us, right there, Camelback Ranch. How of the first 3 games in? And did you miss it?
I don't know if I missed it, but I mean, these people sure seem to have, a lot of these people paid, decent amount of money to come out here. This is not an Artie Moreno. This is not an Artie Moreno experience. The team wins, you might, go home a little poorer.
Well, richer in soul though, maybe watching the Dodgers win. So we're 3 games of the camp now. I don't know. We're
undefeated.
Undefeated, the Dodgers are, and really without questions. Like as far as spring training camps go, I mean, the daily conversations have been more about which player is going to compete for an MVP or Cy Young rather than like what the lineup might look like or who makes the team. Just kind of what have been your early thoughts on camp here and what stuck out to you as we've seen this team for the first time?
Well, not to do the whole like best shape of my life thing, right? But you do, I mean, I think, and I do think it speaks to the kind of the culture of the organization, right? That everybody kind of showed up looking the way they should, right? You had, Teoscar Hernandez, who had to lose some weight. He lost the weight. You had, on the other end of the spectrum, you had guys like Tyler Glasnow, River Ryan, who had to add weight, and they did. So I think you're optimistic about that. Like you said, for the most part, the team's pretty healthy. One major exception, obviously, is Blake Snell, but, they have like 10 different pitchers, including some young guys, that I think the team has to figure out what their role is going to be moving forward, if they have a role here at all, if they're going to get moved at the deadline. So at this point, actually being down a guy might not be the worst thing in the world, right? It's going to get somebody else like a shot at, they'll get a trial run out there. Kind
of been the same thing. Tommy Edman been ruled out of opening day, coming back from his ankle injury. Not much of a surprise. Has created somewhat of a competition between Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland and some others. I think at the other end of the spectrum, though, like Shohei Ohtani's progression has kind of been interesting to watch. He is no longer here. He departed today to go to Japan to join Team Japan for the World Baseball Classic. Others will be leaving camp later this week. Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Edwin Diaz and Hae-Sung Kim and Will Smith for Team USA. But with Ohtani, how do you feel? There's been a lot of talk in the first couple weeks here in Glendale about the way he looks coming off a fully healthy offseason, the fact that he's already faced hitters twice, that even though the WBC is going to create some complications for his pitching ramp up, he'll be ready to start the season. It's hard to be more impressed with anything Ohtani does after the last couple years, but at least the way he's come in now, do you feel a little bit more optimistic about how the return to two-way play is going to go?
Yeah.
Kind of the place he's going to be in physically, even coming back from the WBC in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's, his body just seems kind of, again, not to go back to the eye test again, but the body just kind of seems like a little bit better proportioned. Obviously last year, I mean, people kind of forget, right, in the 24 World Series, he had the separated shoulder, had like a procedure there that probably slowed some things down a little bit. Physically, obviously he looks great just by the fact that he's hit 99 already, right? I do think, right, his former manager, Hideki Kuriyama from the Nippon Ham Fighters, who managed him in the last WBC, has been around camp here, working as a TV broadcaster. And, he always sets a pretty high bar for Ohtani. He kind of mentioned how, I don't know, if his pitching form is all that great right now. It sounds like, I guess Ohtani, to generate more velocity, kind of did this thing where I guess he's doing this thing, at least in the last time he pitched through here, he kind of, right, when he threw the live the other day, or yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
They all blend together.
Yeah, he's kind of doing this thing, I guess, where he's tilting back a little bit more to kind of generate more velocity, right, more power or whatever, which I guess, kind of had an effect on the command of his slider.
Man, that's a very analytical breakdown of a live BP session.
You know, but that said, you know, again, I think he's going to kind of figure things out. Right? There's no reason to think that he won't. I mean, obviously, he looks great. I mean, he looks so good right now, frankly, right, that we're thinking, you know, might he pitch? You know, it's a weird thing, right? I mean, because again, it's you know, and I guess this is what I do kind of like about Ohtani, right?
Might he pitch in the WBC?
In the WBC,
yes.
Is that like he's becoming more, I think, of an entertainer in a way, right? In terms of, right, in the first Cactus League game that he played in, Hae-Sung Kim, you know, lines the ball foul that kind of zipped by him, and, you know, Ohtani just kind of like mocking, you know, playfully glared at him, and, you know, the crowd laughed, and you know, when he came out of the game.
Did you laugh? Was it funny enough to get a chuckle out of you in the press box?
I had my head down. I was writing.
Okay.
You know, and then like later, like when he left, right? I mean, he just grabbed his stuff and basically like sprinted into the outfield, which is the type of thing you don't really get to see too much, you know. And I think even here, right? I mean, I still think that more likely than not that he's not going to pitch, right? I mean, there is in the WBC, right? You know, because I think. You know, that said,
I'm glad it's only more likely than not. Because, again, like the Dodgers have been pretty clear, like he's not going to pitch. Andrew Friedman, you know, you asked him, would they sue Team Japan if he did try to pitch? He said he wasn't worried about that. But, yeah, Ohtani, when he was asked about this the other day, said, you know, kind of joked, like, well, you know, if it's the ninth inning, or he was asked if it's the ninth inning of the game and you can close it out, like, would you be tempted? And he said, you know, it's tough to say. Maybe if Trout stepped in there, kind of, he didn't really say like no, but it seems unlikely.
And again, you could read that both ways, right? The one way to read it is, you know, because he has not himself actually said, I am not going to pitch. Right, the closest he's come to it when he asked,
reading
like,
the fine print.
Well, I mean, that's how he talks, right? I mean, we were, you know, I mean, I was. You know, I did, you know, recorded actually last night a podcast, my Japanese podcast 50/50. If you want to speak Japanese, please watch that. But, you know, we were talking last night about how it almost felt like a language test, right? Like, what's the subject? What is the, you know, because, you know, the closest he's come, right, when he got asked, how have you come to accept this decision that you're not going to pitch? He didn't say he accepted the decision. What he said was he accepted the feeling that it would be difficult for him to pitch after, you know, basically having only pitched half a season last year. You know, and so again, there's one way to read it is that like, hey, he's actually kind of creating this opening for him to pitch. The other way to look at it, though, right, when, you know, as Vesia was asking Ohtani that question about, you know, might you be tempted to pitch in a certain situation, you did see kind of this little smile kind of start to form on Ohtani's face. And I think, right, this is going to be like a potentially kind of a fun story maybe, right? Mm-hmm. And I think he's kind of finding humor in, you know, and that's what kind of makes sports fun, I think.
Will
right?
he, won't he? Is
yeah, right? I mean, you know, not everybody has the luxury of being able to turn a sporting competition into like a show, right? Because you're just most guys are just treading water, you know, just trying to kind of survive. But every now and then, right, every generation has a couple of guys that the game is, or whatever it is easy enough for them that they can turn the thing into kind of a spectacle, and it kind of seems like he's really kind of embracing more of this entertainer role.
Shohei Ohtani, generational entertainer,
yeah,
is a new one.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Okay, elsewhere around camp, we saw Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitch in his first game. He's going to pitch a second game, which even came as news to Dave Roberts, who joked when he took him out the other day, like, oh, good luck in the WBC. Yamamoto kind of was like, what's he? Oh, I get it. He doesn't know I'm pitching again. Yeah. But with him, also related to the WBC, like, do you think this is a good or a bad thing that he's pitching in this tournament? Obviously, it's very important. I think in some ways, you know, some players look at it as a benefit as they ramp up for a season. You know, in his case, he's coming off the workload he had last year, just the general concerns over how many innings he can pitch. But with where he's at physically, how do you look at what this tournament can do for him and how he'll be able to manage, you know, the added innings he's going to have when he rejoins the Dodgers and gets into the regular season?
Well, this is where I kind of want to give Dave Roberts some credit, right? I mean, he was kind of explaining to us why he was kind of okay with it. And I think really kind of the bottom line there, right? He didn't exactly phrase it like this, but I think if you kind of sift through everything, what he was really trying to say is he's a competitor and you can't stop a competitor from competing, right? So I think like one, it's just kind of going to happen. Now, I do think, I think I said this before, this is going to be kind of a test of sorts for Osamu Yada, right? His longtime trainer, and kind of
Yada Sensei to the Twitter crowd.
Yeah, and I spoke to him the other day, and he kind of talked about like, look, it's not like we're doing things to kind of prepare for like this one particular event, right? We've been doing this because he, I think, Yamamoto started working out with him when he was 19 years old, right? So they've been together for a while now, and he said, that basically he kind of compared it to kind of the seasons of the year, that. In December and January, evidently, like they push Yamamoto to the point of complete exhaustion, right? And he says, look, like whatever as bad as this year might be, those 2 months were worse than anything he's going to encounter. Mm-hmm. And he even kind of talked about how, right, this is no different than like kind of planting a seed and then having the things sprout in the spring.
It's an unbelievable quote. That
and then and then becoming like a flower, and then later the fruit.
In the fall, the fruit.
The fruit, yeah. And he was like, look, like this is why, like he kind of talked about last year, how he struggled in May a bit, right? And it's like, of course, he's not going to feel great at that point in the season. He pushed himself like almost to death in the off season, right? And he's going through kind of this like cycle. And so the way Yada Sensei kind of explained it was, like to the outside, people might not, right? They might view this as kind of like, with a lot of uncertainty, but we kind of know the way his body goes, the way the cycle is. What was kind of interesting was he said that, that the weight gain was not like deliberate. Basically that he just kind of did the things that he normally did, and he just kind of naturally just got bigger, And it's kind of a funny quote that he gave was about how he compared Yamamoto to kind of like the dominant monkey, like in a particular environment, and he goes like, oh, like as soon as you become the boss, like those guys just get bigger all of a sudden, so.
I was not familiar with the zoology of.
Well, Japan has a lot of
monkeys,
monkeys, right? There are a lot of, so. So I think it's one of those things where I think you kind of have. I mean, look, they've obviously invested a lot in Yamamoto. They trusted, right, Yamamoto, and by extension, Yada Sensei, enough to where they were willing to call him out in Game 7 of the World Series on 0 days rest to pitch like the final 2 2/3 innings, right? And I think at this point, it's kind of might as well just kind of like, right, see how far this thing can go, What is interesting, I don't know if you noticed this, Mookie Betts, I guess, has started working with. He's going to work with Yada Sensei.
He's done some things with him in the past couple of years, just kind of like out of curiosity. But yeah, I mean, when you look at Yamamoto and what he was able to handle last year, the way he's come into camp looking this year, the fact that there's this much confidence that he'll be able to handle all this, like how could you not kind of be like, all right, let me do some, handstands and javelin throws and push-ups and some other non-traditional body weight exercises, right? He doesn't even lift weights, Yamamoto. Nope. It's interesting. And yeah, he's been, like you mentioned, part of this group that I think so far this spring has just come in looking good and kind of addressed, at least to as much as you can at the end of February, I think some of the bigger concerns that we had talked about coming into the season, which is how did the Dodgers handle the toll of last year and the short off season and everything. And actually to this point, it hasn't been that big of an issue outside of some of the pre-existing things that like Blake Snell was dealing with and Tommy Edman, but all the other pitchers have started ramping up okay. That's why, like, again, when it comes to this camp, it's the daily conversations have been about how good can this team be or how good can this player be or that player be, more than checking in on injuries or other things like that, which is a good place for the Dodgers to be at this stage. All right, what else has been going on around here? I'm trying to even go through
right. One of Yamamoto's teammates is now part of the local media in a way, right? Yu Suzuki, who used to pitch with him at Oryx, and he's now working here as a TV broadcaster. But he was very impressed with Edwin Diaz the other day, right? The other day. Days are
they're all the same.
My sense of time is all screwed up now. But Diaz struck out the side in his live BP session, and you seem to really be kind of blown away by him. I guess today Sasaki threw a bullpen session, and from what I heard, the cutter looked very good. two-seamer.
in that search for a third pitch.
Yeah, two-seamers, right?
He's already got a pitch that goes that way. He needs the
and
cutter
then,
that goes the other way.
And then he hit the the mannequin thingy with the forkball. But I think overall it was a good session for him again, just because the cutter kind of did what it was supposed to do.
All right, to throw some other guys in the impressive so far bucket, Alex Vesia made his first appearance today, obviously since missing last year's World Series following the loss of his newborn daughter. It's been an emotional, I think, return to baseball for him. He met with reporters at the start of camp, read a statement that was very powerful about all that he and his wife have been through. But I think the return to baseball for him has been just an uplifting thing to see this spring. It started in some backfield sessions, some live BPs. He struck out Shohei Ohtani twice and was very pumped up about it, as he shared today, because Ohtani kind of joked with him before, like, hey, I want a piece of this. And then he got him, I think, looking one time, swinging another, and then goes out on the mound today, throws a scoreless inning, 17 pitches with a strikeout, and said he feels good, just kind of like where he's at physically. He's another guy who came into camp looking really big. Talked about, this offseason as he was processing things, how the gym was kind of a sanctuary for him, an outlet for him, but how he also kind of feels like he's balanced, the way his body feels with also still needing to kind of have the mobility to execute pitches the way he wants. So it's been good to see him back pitching well. Hae-Sung Kim is another guy that's been interesting. Now, today's game, not his best. Kind of looked like last year's Hae-Sung Kim, swinging at pitches out of the zone, kind of some awkward follow-throughs. But in some of the live BP sessions, even against someone like Yamamoto and some other guys, like, there's been a little bit more, to me, like, consistency in how his swing has looked, and when he's made contact, more powerful contact. Similar to kind of what we saw when he first came up last year, before he struggled down the stretch, before he had the shoulder injury that impacted some things. Dodger coaches have talked about how, he spent some time in LA this offseason working with them. They feel like he's in a decent spot. And again, as one of these guys that on a team where there's very few question marks, is someone who could have the range of outcomes this year for him are big, because he could start the year helping at second base. He could go out into the outfield and be a backup option there. He's somebody that if there's injuries could have an opportunity to play a little bit more. And I think some of the progress he's made with his swing has at least stuck out as an early positive note here.
He took Yamamoto deep.
Almost. Did it?
No, it went over.
It went over. There was a big point of debate.
There is. But both Kim and Yamamoto, of all people. And Yamamoto went out of his way to point out that it went out to the deepest part of the park. So,
yeah, close. It was the other way. I mean, and that's the sort of thing to see him, against a pitcher like Yamamoto, drive something with power to the opposite field. It's just a sign of, like, okay, he's unlocking more things in this swing, I think, in the way the Dodgers were kind of hoping when they first signed him last offseason.
Going back to the Vesia thing, what was kind of cool, right, was, the first, live that he pitched after he was done. The crowd there kind of gave him a big applause, right? Kind of same thing today. He got a nice warm applause. And, right, fan reaction, you kind of don't know, sometimes it's, right, just kind of whatever. But you kind of feel like in this case, obviously, that, I think it's very much appreciated by him and his wife.
Yeah, and, he talked about it's kind of hard, even that part of it, because he's very appreciative of it. Obviously, has talked about the support he's felt over the offseason in the spring, but also, wanting to, focus on baseball and kind of treat it a little bit normal or more normal. And that's what, again, was cool about seeing him out here today. All right, we'll finish here. Someone we haven't really seen a ton, or who's kind of just blended into the scene here at camp, is Kyle Tucker. He did play yesterday in his first game, joked that his goal this spring is to top his hit total of 1 from last spring. But hey, a joke from Kyle Tucker, it's still kind of in that getting to know phase, but it's been interesting to see, again, a guy who commanded so much attention this offseason has kind of showed up here and just blended in. Even yesterday in Peoria when he got his first start, I think that the cheers for Miguel Rojas and Will Smith and even Will Klein might have been bigger, but I think that was part of the appeal, right? For him coming here is not having to be the guy, and so far has at least seemed to start carving out what his place on this team will be on and off the field.
Yeah, any team where Shohei Ohtani is realistically, right, everybody else kind of
where
becomes
you have
another.
a generational entertainer and player like Ohtani.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just remember, right, his first spring here. I remember, right, everybody was watching Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman take batting practice, and then Ohtani goes to hit on the other field, and immediately the entire crowd there stampeded over to the Ohtani field, right? And then I do think these championships these last 2 years has now kind of brought those other guys kind of back a little bit. And so, yeah, Tucker's kind of even behind that. I think, whenever Ohtani's on the move, you can hear it, right? you don't even have to see it, right? You can hear it. Tucker's moving around in relative silence right now, right? I mean, the other day he was going out, right? He walked out with Will Smith and Freddie Freeman, and people were yelling for Freddie and a little bit for Will Smith, and he was just there.
Someone yelled at him. He was handsome, though. That was
afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, the one shout out we've heard.
But I think for what's going to be good for him is that, and again, like you mentioned that he was he was kind of sneaky funny, right, yesterday, and he's going to have the option to kind of emerge as a personality if he wants to. If he doesn't want to, that's also fine. But really kind of the choice.
On his own pace.
Yeah, the choice is kind of his, Now I do want to point out, right, the last big player that wore the 23 jersey, Adrian Gonzalez, obviously came to LA with maybe not the best reputation as far as kind of dealing with the media and stuff. Next thing you know, a couple years go by, he's flashing Mickey Mouse ears in St. Louis and kind of throwing his, and became like a very kind of, beloved figure in Los Angeles, which, again, I think when he first came here, you weren't really sure how it was going to go. So this, he's going to have kind of I think, Kyle Tucker's going to kind of have similar opportunities here if he wants to take them. If he becomes that great, if he doesn't, they'll be fine with that too.
All right. This is I think the longest you've been in a spring camp in 10 years consecutively?
At least,
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Are you surviving?
I mean, I'm just kind of, it's just a constant worrying about what am I going to write tomorrow, right? So
welcome back to.
Yeah, the cartridge might be empty right now. So, if there's anything you want to read about,
let me know because I'm out of
know.
Ideas. All right. Well, it's good. This would be a surprise for people who go online to CaliforniaPost.com. Oh, what did Dylan pull out of his back pocket today? But no, we have a lot of coverage online. I will be here for the duration of spring. You'll eventually be going on your own WBC departure to closely monitor whether Shohei Ohtani will pitch in that. We'll end here. Okay, we'll end here. Just to clarify this, I think there's a 0% chance he pitches. Give me your percent guess.
Well, okay.
Because you got a little more like belief in this, I feel like.
Yeah, so kind of thinking about it, like it would just be too.
Oh, I think it's too complicated. Right. I don't think.
Oh, well, here's the thing. I think
there's technicalities.
Right, but here's the other part of this. He already hit 99. Like, why is he throwing 99 at this point?
Because he had a healthy offseason.
I don't know, man.
Like conspiracy brain appears.
Yeah, there is conspiracy brain. I mean, he can't. Well, here's the thing. It looks like he can.
I'm sure. Yes, he's
and if the
physically
moment
capable
right,
of
and then
doing
like
it.
if you look at the way the Japanese, I mean, are they really going to throw out Sugano in the semifinal?
Right, on the rest of Japan's roster.
Right, and so let's just say they have to empty their bullpen in the semis. They get to the final. They're right, like. It's just that when you get to that moment, right? And I think this is the case with all these guys, right? It's no different than like with Yamamoto after Game 6 of the World Series, right? I think at that point when Dave Roberts told us that he is not available, I think he believed that at that moment, right? But then it's like, well, if the guy's there and he's saying he can pitch.
I understand the temptation, but there's too many logistical hurdles and potentially negative consequences. Now, maybe things are different if they get to like the day before the final and it's clear like there might be an opportunity for him.
Because you got to remember, you have to remember,
and he's been able to keep building up, in the weeks he's been gone, and then he asked the Dodgers like, "Hey, but this feels like a Ohtani fan
here's the
fiction.
thing, though. What you don't understand, though, is that this is a much bigger deal in Japan than the World Series, right? And like last year, it was, so much so, right, that again I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet, but when Yamamoto came out of the bullpen in Game 7. The Japanese media was like horrified by this, right? They're like, the WBC's next year. Like, how dare they risk injuring him in something as trivial as the World Series, right? Like, so, I mean, you got to understand there are different, like, valuation systems. I do think that, like, you know, players come from Japan to here with this idea, like, we're going to conquer the world. And this is an actual, like, you know, as much as it can be in baseball, like a global, like a legitimate global competition. So, I don't know. I just think that if the moment gets there, the manager, the Japanese manager is basically like a fan, you know. He came out, right?
Was that a compliment or?
No, it's like, it means that he can't, like, what I'm telling you is that he will not be able to, like, if Ohtani comes to him, he's like, I'm going to pitch. Like, what's the guy going to say?
Sure.
I mean, he was bragging to the media the other day. He's like, oh, look, Shohei called me. I mean, that's not the dynamic of a manager who can control the player. So I would say, look, I don't think it's going to happen. Well, because also keep in mind, they have to get to the final, I think. I don't think he's going to do this in, like, the quarterfinals. And look, they could end up, like, hitting the Dominican in the quarters if, right, the Dominican, like, loses to, you know, Venezuela.
I guess the only thing I'd say is, in Ohtani's whole time here, the Dodgers have gone out of their way to be vague, to leave doors open, to put decisions in his hands about all sorts of things. And they've been pretty declarative in this sense, or in this situation, that he's not pitching in the WBC. That suggests to me that they're that confident about it, but I guess we'll see. But I'm gonna say that's not gonna happen. But
I'd say it's like a 15 to 20% chance.
I'm hoping that it at least presents itself as an opportunity, so you can be in Miami raising your hand. Shohei, are you going to pitch? And we'll see what he says then.
See what he says.
All right. Until then, thank you guys again for following along. Go to CaliforniaPost.com to check out the rest of our coverage. And until next time, talk to you later.